No, it does seem like they run it a lot after they say go.
Okay, well, we're going to have to audible because of some technical issues and move. I said at 10:31 we get to the player. Kang has a theory. The Lions could add this one player who shouldn't cost much, and the fans will be thinking Super Bowl. Now, let's keep in mind that last night the Ravens smoked the Dolphins, and it might push Miami one step closer to sell, which has Kang with his theory. And Kang, your theory is what?
All right, so obviously the trade deadline's coming up. We're all thinking, how can we improve the Lions? So I was thinking about this, and I know there's a few areas of need the Lions could use some depth and help at. We talk about it, secondary, obviously, with the Legion of Whom having to play the last game they played. Offensive line with Taylor Decker being hurt all year. Manu's hurt. They lost Jones at the beginning of the year, and Skipper, they had to pull off the practice squad. But defensive end obviously has always been a thing with the fan base here. And I get it, because rotationally, you pretty much only have like 2 or 3 guys that are just edge rushers, right? Otherwise, they've been using Derek Barnes, blitzing Anzalone or Campbell, moving guys inside and outside. But as far as Hutch and Mohammed, they had to start, they had to play Wheat last week, right? Or 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking around the league as far as defensive end, other than Trey Hendrickson, because I don't think the Lions are going to go after Trey Hendrickson, and he's hurt right now. I think an obtainable player, if the Lions got, fans would be thinking, oh, this is Super Bowl. This is a Super Bowl roster, is linebacker / defensive end Jaylen Phillips from the Miami Dolphins. And this is not a new name necessarily or anything like that, but they played last night, and they lost again, and they looked terrible. The Dolphins are going to have to trade some players here. Jaylen Phillips only has 3 sacks this year.
Had one last night.
Yeah, but if you look at his overall pass rusher rating and just what he's done, he's actually been pretty good.
First couple of years he was really good, yeah. And then I think he's been hurt.
He's tailed off, yeah. Yes. He's got injured and all that. But he's only 26 years old. So this isn't bringing in an old Zadarius Smith who's going to play the rest of the season and retire in the middle of the next season. Jaylen Phillips is still going to play football after this year. He's going to be gone if they don't trade him. They don't want to lose him for anything. I think Jaylen Phillips is going to get moved. Whether it's to the Lions or not, I'm not sure. I hope it is the Lions. So that's kind of twofold. If the Lions get him, they prevent teams like maybe the Niners or the Bears or the Eagles who are sniffing around for defensive end as well. It's kind of like a 2-for-1. Do the Lions have the draft capital, Doug? They don't have a 3rd-round pick this year, unfortunately. They could get a comp pick, though, if they lose maybe Kelvin Shepard to another team or whatever. They do have a comp pick in the 7th round, I believe, but maybe he goes for a 4th-round pick, like Zadarius Smith, or 5th round. So things have to work here, but I think Jaylen Phillips is a name to keep an eye on, and if they do get him, 26 years old, like I said, very good pass rusher when healthy. I think he pairs with Hutchinson very well.
So a couple things about this. One is, again, last night's result certainly helps the possibility of him getting released. 2 is he did have getting that they would let go. 2 is he did have a sack last night. He also, on one of the big gainers, had Lamar Jackson in his hands and let him escape, and he completed a pass to a tight end for like 40 yards, which has people in Miami. I saw a post last night about Jaylen Phillips having warning track power as a edge rusher, which I thought was a funny way to put it. But here's the thing about a move like this is it shouldn't cost that much. He is a rental, and he's not an elite edge rusher, but he's a good one. And has been good in his career. Has he slowed down a little bit? Yeah. What we don't know about him is whether or not, and I'm going to guess that the Lions have a book on virtually everybody that's come out the last few years. When he was coming out of Miami, did they, get into the head of Jaylen Phillips, the work ethic? What was their scouting report when he came out in the draft back in 2021? Did they have a good sense for would he fit with the way that things work here? Because what's funny is yesterday I was listening to Kelvin Shepard, the defensive coordinator, and he was talking about a few things. And one of them was at some point he was asked about, the talent on defense. And he said, the superstars, he goes, I don't like calling any of our guys superstars because it comes with a bit of a stigma. A superstar is, we don't want anyone, nobody comes across as a diva. Nobody comes across as I'm better than anybody. He said Hutch just signed his contract and he's down there in the meeting with his notebook out working the way he always does. None of our guys act like superstars. They all act like guys who are hungry. And I go back to their vetting process. This is an organization that's put a ton of time and effort into vetting, right? And because of the vetting, they don't take on very many problem children, or they don't take on somebody that might be distracted by anything other than football. They have like football junkies in that building, and it's what they believe in. Now, you can build an entire roster of those, and sometimes you need some guys that maybe don't fit that mold, but their skill set could help. So maybe Jaylen Phillips doesn't have to be that football junkie. And I'm not saying he isn't. I'm just saying this is one of the variables that we don't know anything about. They might have vetted Jaylen Phillips out of Miami a couple of years ago and said, maybe not. And that's fine. I sort of trust their instincts with this one, but he should be attainable. And Albert Breer reported that the Lions, again today, like latest reporting is what we're always trying to do at the trade deadline, said the Lions are one of the teams calling about edge rushers. Now, that could be as simple as calling the Bengals every day just to keep tabs on Trey Hendrickson, which is what I would do. I would say, please, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I'm going to call you every day to make sure nothing has changed. Send you an email, a text. Hey, buddy, just, hey, is there anything that's changed with Trey Hendrickson? Because you don't want to miss out. You want to have the line on what's going on in case he is one of those trade deadline, dumps that nobody can see coming. Not nobody can see coming, but you can't believe how little it cost.
I don't think I would call every day, but I certainly would have called recently, like in the last couple of days, to let the GM of Cincinnati know we're interested if you are. I understand. I respect that you're not right now, but if the time comes and you are, okay, because I don't want to bother you every day. What I am going to do, regardless of what happens Sunday with your game against the Bears, I'm going to call you after the game and see where you're at, because I don't want you to forget me. But I think, there may just give it a little bit of breathing room. But I think, the Phillips one, that's a name I brought up a while ago, and I would think that that's somebody who matches up nicely. But again, I don't know really anything about Jaylen Phillips in terms of what they thought of him coming out of college or anything like that. So, yeah, that's important. Is he a good fit or not? But he is a free agent. Miami did say recently that they're not going to trade, but then they lost last night, and they lost badly, and it was to a team in their own division. Mm-hmm. So all these stars are going to line up, and I think they're going to have to move some players. The right tackle, Larry Borum, is a free agent after this year. Oh. Is that somebody that is obtainable?
Yeah, I mean, it might be.
So, because that's the other position. I mean, there are three positions I think you're looking at: corner, defensive end or edge rusher, and offensive lineman. So, I think that's what you got to look at if you're Brad Holmes, and that maybe the easiest way to go is, okay, the rental group. Here's a group of rental players we have, and I'm sure they've got a whiteboard somewhere in the building or a database somewhere that says, here are the players that are free agents at the end of the year. These are rental guys and guys that can help us.
Well, as you take a look at this thing, I'm surprised, Kang, that you believe that fans will start thinking Super Bowl if they get them. Because I think fans will only start thinking some fans will only start thinking Super Bowl if they walk out of the trade deadline with Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I understand it's not the big splash name, Trey Henderson, Myles Garrett, that type of player, but I feel like more fans have realized that's not going to happen now, and this is the closest thing. No one believes in Marcus Davenport as far as from the fan base. They just don't. I mean, I think people even stopped asking about him 3 weeks ago, right? And we got an update, I think, from Campbell last presser. But I think they really still want someone to pair with Hutch, of course, and I think he's obtainable. That's kind of like the biggest word for me in this whole thing is who's obtainable. I don't think Hendrickson's obtainable. I just don't. I think the Bengals are going to ride this thing till the end and try to get Joe Burrow back and win that division or get close to the division and get in the playoffs somehow. I think Jaylen Phillips, obviously the Dolphins are not getting in. They're going to have to move this guy.
I'll tell you what, Miami is like one-stop shopping if you wanted to. Not only do they have the edge rusher that could help out in Jaylen Phillips or the offensive lineman that I mentioned, Larry Borum, but here's a guy that is on their roster that played for the Lions, and he's a free agent at the end of the year.
So I just looked down at YouTube. Chris96 writes, Trey Hendrickson would only cost a second-round pick, and after this Sunday is only owed $8 million. Not trading for him at this point is ridiculous. He would make us favorites to win the Super Bowl.
I had one more name to throw.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Big build-up to this.
Okay, go ahead.
Ifeatu Melifonwu.
Really?
is a free agent after the season.
Bring him back?
Is that somebody they bring back? He's a safety, but he had the ability to play corner.
Yeah, they have familiarity.
And there's familiarity. Yep. So, like I said, Miami has like one-stop shopping abilities, but I doubt that the team's going to deal 3 players to win one deal. But nonetheless, maybe a combo.
My apologies for cutting you off. I do want to take your thoughts, get your thoughts on Chris 96 and what he has to say there. So we'll get to that coming up in a minute. It is Karsch and Anderson. We got open lines, 248-539-9797, 97.1.